Like I can already feel like you guys are gonna like do cool stuff.
Into the motive.
Just being good to one another.
Yeah.
But
You guys are doing a good thing here.
The people at the top collaborate, and the people that are at the bottom compete.
Yeah, it resulted in me shooting him.
I was charged with 109 and a 50.
Ultimately, you'll get to where you want to go if you push yourself enough.
I genuinely love this conversation.
I love the Motive Podcast.
Welcome back to the Motive Podcast. I'm your host, Leo Kosach. Alongside me is my co-host, Cole Cuccinata, sitting in for this episode right here, 121. And joining us today, a very special guest, an ultra athlete and Grindstone 100 finisher. Guys, please welcome to the podcast, Antonio Puzzangara.
Let's go.
Thank you for being
boys.
here, please.
It's an honor. It's an honor.
We hit the track Tuesday. That was awesome. Thanks
sir.
for having me out. It was fun.
Yes, sir. First track Tuesday at Westtown.
Track Tuesday at Westtown. What time do you usually wake up? Like, what's your daily schedule look like?
Normally during the week, it's 4 a.m. wake up.
Okay.
It's a whole routine. It's built up into this. It wasn't like this all the time. It wasn't waking up at 4 a.m. when I was 5 years old. But now it's built into this. First 20 minutes of my day is spent in prayer, and then from there, get a good stretch routine in, eat, and then I'm out the door, whether it's lifting or running, by 5 o'clock.
So that's 7 days a week?
That's 5 days,
5 days
during the week, and then Saturdays and Sundays, I'm sleeping a little bit later than that. But just with work, gotta get it in.
Yeah, of course.
Because when I have more responsibility, wife, kids later on in life, that time is, I don't want to be rushing out the door after work.
Yeah.
And when I could be spending time with my wife and kids, that time in the morning when everyone else is sleeping, that's the only time that I would know I will always have in life.
Yeah.
Unless there's an emergency, but that's for a different day.
Real quick, we ran together a couple months ago, and you said something that I won't forget. You were saying, and what we went to Oakhocking to run. It was pretty early in the morning. I got there late, I think around like 6:30, and you were there at like 5. Yeah. But when I got there, I was telling you how someone cut me off in traffic, or maybe someone cut you off in traffic, and you gave me the reason that, like, this is a reason why I wake up in the morning. Like, a lot of people won't wake up to discipline themselves first, and it screws up their whole day. Yeah. And I love that. Like, wake up, discipline yourself, then go on with your day.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Set those priorities. So I like that.
100%. So where would you say, and we can dive into this throughout this entire episode, but where would you say you found that discipline and that motivation, like through faith, through life, everything?
Yeah, I would say it's been a long journey. It's not something that, it came all at once. It's something that's built into a process. So, growing up, I grew up Catholic, went to Catholic school. Faith was always in my life, but as a young guy, it's hard for you to fully understand the faith, especially as you're growing up and maturing. So, when I was younger and I didn't really have much of an identity, didn't really understand prayer either until much later. So, when you attach yourself to things of this world, and your identity becomes things of this world, where you're trying to become the popular person, try to have friends at a young age. So one of the things that I really attached myself to was sports, and growing up, that became my thing. So sports, this is what my friends do. I'm going to be good at this. I'm going to put all my effort into sports, and this is what I love to do. This is the type of person I want to be. And, pretty early on, I started failing really quick. High school, baseball was my thing. Got cut all 4 years. Football was pretty similar. Didn't start a single game for high school. I played special teams my senior year. So, you start to have these failings, and again, not any big problems. In the grand scheme of things, you have people that have health issues, people have actual like family issues at home, but it does start to sap at your confidence for a young man. So I keep moving forward. Get into college, I try to walk on for baseball, get cut. Try to walk on for football. I was never going to see the field for Susquehanna. We were pretty good at football. So like all these rejections, and you could throw in like girls too. Like I was never in a point where I was actually ready for a relationship, but just the rejection, it didn't help at a young age. So all of this is, sapping the confidence out of a young kid that's like still trying to find his way in this world. So, I'm at college now, sophomore and junior year, and like I'm just kind of struggling, like not doing well mentally, very anxious, a little bitter, a little resentful with all this rejection that I have in my life. And I would say it was junior year was the roughest one. And it's not that I had bad influences in my life. Like the friends that I've accumulated over the years have been one, if not the greatest gift that God has given me.
Love that.
But when you're in college, you just have the ability to do things because you're free for the first time. I have strict parents at home that have guardrails, and I'm blessed to be able to say that. But when you go off to college for the first time, you have the ability to do the wrong thing. So drinking became a thing. It was never that big of an issue. I always got my work done, always did that, but it did start to seep in. And my junior year, I probably had I would say rock bottom. It was like a Thursday night. First time I ever drank on a Thursday night for a class, which for a college kid, you go to your junior year doing that. That's pretty impressive. But it was a Thursday night. I don't know what was bothering me that night, but kind of went off the rails. It's the only time in my life I blacked out. I just woke up, puke all over the floor. Tried to like scramble to class. Was sitting in math class. Had to like leave math class because I had to puke again. And then, came back to class. The rest of the day was just scrapped. Was just, bedridden, feeling like just so gross. Not even just like the fact that I was sick. It was just like, what am I doing? What is any of this? Then the next day I remember sitting in the study room, and, I had some sort of essay, and sitting on my laptop, and something else bothered me, and I just remember getting the thought of like, I just want to punch in my laptop right now. And it was just like a deflating feeling of like, yeah, this is me. Like, I'm just very frustrated, very bitter with how things have gone. I'm not confident in who I am. I had a lot of gifts in my life. Again, the problems that I had were not that big, but I just see myself as a failure at this moment in my life. But it's amazing how things seem to happen in God's timing. So that was spring of my junior year, and this was a few weeks before Lent, which is the time leading up towards Easter in the Catholic season. And my buddy Andrew, who's now in the seminary studying to be a Catholic priest, he only has 2 years left. He actually called me I don't know what the timing was in relation to like my rock bottom moment, but he called me, and it's kind of interesting because he was struggling too. I was struggling, but neither of us knew at the time that we were struggling. And he comes back to me and says, "Pooh's like, let's do this thing called Exodus 90." And I'm like, what's that? Like, I've never heard that before. So he's like, okay, we're gonna pray every day. We're gonna read scripture every day. So the praying consisted of the rosary, which is a prayer dedicated towards the Blessed Mother. It takes about 15 minutes every day. And then scripture, no porn, cold showers, diet. You had to kind of dial it in. I was a little looser because I was playing football. There was fasting elements with that, but I kind of went away with that. But to be somebody that didn't have any sort of routine, my prayer consisted of like, I would say what I wanted to pray for at night. But again, my understanding of prayer at that point in my life was very baseline, and seeing God as almost like a wishing well. Like, I'm gonna go to church, I'm gonna say these things, and hoping like good will just come out of it. But like, that's kind of seeing God as a butler. Like, that's not true prayer. So to go from that to all of a sudden, this heavy routine where now I'm waking up, I'm saying the rosary every single day. And one of the things that with any habit, you don't want to give an excuse to stop the habit. So what I wanted to say was like, I'm going to find time for this by breaking it up throughout the day. So I might not have 15 minutes every day to say it all at once, but if I break it up, so if I say 6 minutes of it, so, there's 50 Hail Marys in it. I said 20 Hail Marys in the morning. I say 10 before class. In the middle of the day, I send 10 again later in the day, and then I say 10 at night. Then, I have the ability to do this. So that's what I started to do. And the cool thing about that is every single time I'm praying throughout the day, I'm inviting the Blessed Mother in my life. I'm inviting Christ into my life. So between that, reading scripture, the cold showers too, like all of these things, what you would think like, this is so regimented, this is so rigid. How would this feel great? But I felt so free. It was an amazing feeling. It was like a weight just lifting off my shoulders. So then a few months go by, that Lent was amazing. And then I come home for spring break and it was COVID. So we hit lockdowns. I wasn't going back to school. And for most people, this was a very difficult time. For me, this was a big time of growth. So, continued with that Lent. And my whole intention with this Lent was, I'm not just going to do this for this Lent, for this Easter season. Like, I want to continue doing this after the fact. So I kept this regimen and, all that I discussed previously, like I'm still doing that to this day. So I come back, we have the lockdowns, and then this is when training really became a big thing because, wasn't sure what my senior year was going to look like after the lockdowns, but I wanted to be in the best shape of my life. My best friend and roommate, who, again, like I have the best friends in the world, went to grade school, high school, college with my best friend, Mike Kemsky. He's just the best. Like I have no other words to say that, but we started running at, as Cole mentioned before, Oklahoma Reserve. If you're in the area of Westchester, it's right off Westchester Pike, and we started doing these hill sprint workouts. And Mike's a phenomenal athlete, and he was whooping me, like absolutely whooping me, taking me to town. And over these next few weeks of just doing this consistently, I started to get more confident and started to get in really, really great shape. Because I was in good shape. I was a football player, but like I didn't have the cardio. I didn't have the gas tank to just be able to go, especially with a workout like hill sprints when you're just draining yourself. And then, I don't know how what the timing was in relation to all of this, but a few months later, Mike was like, hey, I just started reading this book. It's called Can't Hurt Me. This guy named David Goggins, you got to look into it. And then that's when I got introduced to Goggins. And from there, it was just like everything just hit stride. Like everything made sense. It was, the discipline that he talks about, his life, how he had every excuse in the book to not be the person that he was, and to come out the other side a better man. And, to introduce yourself to discomfort and learn how to be at peace with it in the midst of it. All of that just made sense to me. So from there, it kind of hit the ground running and just like wanted to keep learning. Got back for my senior year, was in the best shape of my life. We didn't end up having our senior season for football, which kind of stunk. But after football was over, I started doing 5-mile runs up at Susquehanna. And then from there, at the end of my senior year, I had a goal, wanted to run 10 miles. I did it. And it was like this big goal. I did it once, and then 2 days later did it again. Like just so cool. Once you see yourself do something, you just have the confidence to be able to do it. And from there, it's just been like this long journey to now where, 10 miles was the goal once, and now 104, and much more. Actually, Goggins is running Moab 240 right now. He's probably at like mile 180. Really? So to just understand what we're capable of, and never put limits on yourself. It's just a beautiful journey, and obviously a lot of highs and lows on this thing, but I'm just grateful to be at the place I'm at right now.
Yeah, dude, it's totally awesome. I want to like kind of rewind, just like you were talking about like drinking in college and stuff, and I like we talk about this on the pod like a lot. Like I just feel like drinking, it's just it's always been a thing, of course, in high school, college, and the whole party scene. But like, I just as someone who's going through high school and I graduated high school and college, it's just like I feel like drinking is pushed at such a young age, and it's so consistent, and it's like it's so easy to like turn your head to it. But I feel like it's so like unbelievably prevalent in like everyday life. Like every single weekend you hear kids talking about, oh, like it's like there was one point that in school, like I would get, I'm not gonna say like I got mad, but it was just like it was a realization where it's like the people who were around me in the class, it would just be like, all right, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's just a recap of what happened from the weekend before. It's like you just have to hear stories. Yeah, hot. There's some laughs. It's funny. It's whatever. And then it's like, all right, Wednesday, and then it's like, all right, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Guess what? Guess what we got this weekend? What do we got this weekend? It's just like it's this never-ending cycle and loop. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know where I'm necessarily going with this point, but it's so prevalent.
I know. I completely agree. And when you have friends that are just drinking buddies, okay, yeah, you go out, you watch sports together, but it's all surface level. Like there's no true trust. And there was a podcast we were actually talking about beforehand. Teddy Atlas, he talks about this. Like you don't know anything about a person until they're tested, and that goes for everybody, every relationship you're in. You don't know anything about yourself until you're tested. But when it comes to friendship, the reason that I'm so close with my friends is because they've seen me at my worst. I've seen them at my worst.
Yeah.
They've seen me come out the other side of my worst. I've seen them come out the other side of my worst. In that builds trust. But when it comes to, what are we doing this weekend? Like, you just know there's nothing deeper than just that.
100%. And as I've grown older, like I've kind of realized that, and that's one of the biggest reasons why I don't like to drink. It's like, I don't know. You see these guys out there who call their friends like their brothers, but it's like you're doing the same thing every weekend. And are you really getting to know these guys like truly? Like you said, it's just surface level. And you don't see these kind of deep conversations going on Friday nights, Saturday nights out. It's just like, what's the point of this? Especially every single weekend.
And I don't think it's necessarily wrong to go out. Like that's not my point at all. But when your sole purpose to hang out with each other is to drink and just watch sports together, like there's nothing growing there.
Yeah.
There's nothing. And I don't ever want to get to the point where I feel the need to, if I feel the need to have to drink with my friends, then are they truly my friends? Like I should be able to sit in a room and be comfortable in my own skin regardless of circumstances.
Right.
And just be able to sit there and be at peace with myself. Like that should be the goal. And if you're not surrounded by those types of people, if they're going to judge you for not wanting to drink tonight, like you need to find a new group.
Yeah, 100%. Like again, like I feel like I used to, and again, it's just as you get older too. It's like as a freshman or sophomore in high school, like there's going to be a lot more kids that are like looking away from it than there are into it. And then obviously as you get older, it spreads. But like I used to really look down negatively on like that crowd and people, and like just very just like I don't. It probably wasn't necessarily the right thing to do. Like I don't want to look down on people who like I can look beyond that too, right? And just see who they are as people, and just like the past, this past beginning of summer, like when I graduated high school. Like, it was the one time where I was like, all right, it's a graduation party. I'll go to the graduation parties. And it was a great time. It was a great time. It was great getting to know these people. But like you said, it's like a beautiful thing to not have to participate in said activities, but still know people. So it was cool. It was cool at least getting to be around people that I grew up with since like kindergarten, first grade, elementary school. So yeah, it's definitely it's interesting, the whole lifestyle. But I was gonna touch on. Oh, and then I want before we go forward, can you just tell us about like growing up, like school? So you went to like grew up in Westchester your whole life, Catholic school, all that. Did you went to Sally's?
Yeah, so I went to St. Max as grade school, and it is amazing that how close I am with all those guys that I went to school with. We're very close. There's 7 to 8 of us that are all still very close, and to have that from your grade school, that's just such a rare thing. So, extremely grateful for that. So from there, from St. Max, went to Salesianum down in Delaware. And again, a lot of the guys from St. Max went there. If you're familiar with Westchester, St. Agnes, St. Simon and Jude, they had a ton of kids go to Sally's too. So we had a ton of kids from Westchester head down to Sally's, and from there just increasing the friend group and taking more friends in, and then from there went from Sally's to Susquehanna University. Like I said before, early in the podcast, I went with my buddy Mike. We were roommates, and met some more amazing people while I was up there.
Yeah. What was your major?
I was finance, and then I minored in economics too.
Okay. Cool. How do you like that?
It's fine. Like it pays the bills.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Are you're in that field right now?
I am. Yeah, doing fund accounting.
Okay. Yeah. Where's that at?
I actually work from home.
Okay.
Headquarters is in New York. I mean, there's pros and cons.
Yeah.
To everything you do. Not having an office feel can be tough sometimes.
Right.
Especially when you can put the laundry on as you're working.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a true work setting, but the pros are that you get time back, which ultimately your greatest asset is your time. And I'm grateful for where I'm at. Is my career exactly what I love right now? I don't know about that. So as I'm figuring that out, time is the greatest asset. Try and figure out what the next steps are.
Definitely. In your Instagram profile, you have Romans 8:18. Can you tell us what that scripture means to you?
Yeah. So Romans 8:18, it says, but I consider that the pain you're experiencing is nothing in comparison to the joy that is to come. So I think that when we go through struggle in life, it's so easy to get caught up in the moment and not see the grander picture, because God's timing doesn't fully make sense in the present tense. It's so easy to say like, oh, why me? Why does this need to happen? Why did this? And you can get in this endless cycle of destroying yourself, of answering questions that don't have answers right now. But to recognize that, first off, God's at our side. He's walking with us at every step of the way, and he feels for us. Like, we can go to him in times he actually wants us to, in times of struggle. But to have the ability to still be grateful, to find joy in your down times, and recognize that on the other side of this, I'm going to be a better person. It's hard to do. Like when you go through trials, it's never easy to be grateful, never easy to be joyful. But it's in the action. It's not in the feeling of okay, I might not feel like it today, but I'm gonna take the actions of going towards prayer, going towards doing the right things, of waking up, trying to be disciplined, serving, loving those around me. It's in that you find gratitude. Gratitude's not a feeling, it's a choice. The more you live, the more you recognize that the greatest things in your life are ultimately a choice. Whether it's love, whether it's gratitude, whether it's humility, whether it's patience, all of it's a choice. If you base your life off feeling, you'll never get anywhere.
Couldn't agree more.
I love that. Man, I love how open you are about religion and knowledgeable you are about the religion. I think I said that twice. As someone who's trying to get closer to God, and for everyone else listening, what would you say to do in order to become more knowledgeable? What would you say, the Exodus 19, that challenge? Would you say that helped you? Because I could kind of relate to that in the way of 75 hard helping me with running. Like, didn't know jack crap about running, and then it's like next thing you know, I'm running every day. Now I can help people run, teach them how to run. Would you say that challenge was a help for you?
So Exodus 90, yeah, that was for sure something that helped me a lot. That was very hard. But the worst thing you can do is just not start. Like there's so many avenues like to just start. Like, God wants to be part of your life. One of my favorite verses is from Revelation chapter 3. It's Christ telling us, he says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. Anyone who hears my voice and is willing to listen, I will come in and dine with him." To that last part, Christ wants to dine with you. Who are the people that you want to dine with? It's your friends, it's your family, it's the people that we want to be close with. So to understand that Jesus wants to be a part of your life. He wants to be intimate. So invite him in with all that you do. So, doing something simple, whether it's just saying, one of my favorite prayers is the Jesus prayer. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. That sums up all prayer, to just accept him into your life. That's all you really need. I mean, from there, you could do simple things, for Catholics, there's the daily mass readings every day that you get a little scripture every single day, that'll never change. You can go online. It's very simple, very accessible. But I would recommend that. And, a lot of church fathers, dude, make time in the morning and night, like start your day. Like a lot of people say, oh, I want to put God first in my life. Well, are you praying first in the morning? Are you praying at night? Like, are you waking up and scrolling on Instagram, or are you waking up and praying? Are you doing the same thing at night? Like, are you just scrolling and just falling asleep watching The Office, or are you turning your TV off, turning the phone on Do Not Disturb, and saying, Lord, thank you for today. I hope to wake up tomorrow and look forward to another one.
Yeah, without a doubt. Absolutely love it. Do you know the app Hollow?
I do.
Do you use it at all?
I haven't, because I kind of established my routine before Hollow really became popular, but I love it.
Yeah.
I know that Jonathan Rumi, who's the actor who plays Jesus in The Chosen, I know he's heavily involved in that, so I would recommend, absolutely, Hollow's beautiful.
Yeah, my pop who I was telling you is very Catholic. He knows the founder, like that family, like he grew up with them. So I've been trying to get the founder on the pod. It's in the works.
That's amazing. Got to get him on.
Yeah, it would be really cool. So walk us through like the evolution through running, because obviously I want to get into the 100-milers, the 2 attempts, and now just recently completed it. So just walk us up from the backstory and getting the idea to start that, Can't Hurt Me, everything, like where the spark started, and get into those races and the training behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, like I said, Goggins I really related to him in a few ways, and I mean, just the one that like he, that man had every excuse in the book to not become the person that he was, and yet he came out the other side. And to just try and take that and understand it and apply it to yourself, and that doesn't mean you have to go out and be a Navy SEAL, but to just try and take something from his story, I think everybody can. And he's very misunderstood by a lot of people. Like, oh, why do you gotta curse this much? Why do you gotta do that? People judge him on the certain ways he acts and all this. Like, the guy just wants to do good. He came from a horrible situation in his life. So, just trying to take that little wisdom and apply it. And, what's cool is like looking back on this story, like I've never had a training plan in my life. I kind of took running and I didn't come from a family of runners. I don't know anybody that runs. So I kind of became my own guinea pig. So senior year, like I said, it was 3 5-mile runs down at the river at Susquehanna. And then just slowly progressing my way up. My first marathon, it was, what was it? It was after I graduated, so it was fall of 2021. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no nutrition plan. Our plan was, I was originally going to run Philly, but there was the COVID vaccination mandates going out. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to slip in. I wasn't vaccinated. So it gets to like the fall. We're like, okay, let's just run it. And our plan was we're going to run 15 miles. We're going to get back to the car. We're going to eat something and then go back for the rest of the 11. And I'm thinking like, this is going to be the greatest day ever. Like and it was like a great slate of college football too. Like Texas was playing Oklahoma. I'm a Texas fan. Penn State was playing Iowa. They were both ranked in the top 5 at that day. And then Alabama was playing Texas A&M. I'm like, this is going to be the greatest day ever. Like, I want to wake up and run a marathon. It was miserable. I wake up, we start running around like, I don't know, 4:30 in the morning. And it was fall at this point. So things were dropping on the trail. And one of the things that they had was a lot of crabapple trees. And I start running. I roll my ankle like literally 100 yards in. Like full on big bend, like one of those where like you roll your ankle and you like jump. Yeah. And like, said the F word. Like that was how I started. I was like, well, here we go. So we get in and we're cruising for the most part for the first 15 miles. But I didn't know anything about like salt intake. I didn't know anything about electrolytes. So I get back to the car, I drink water, I had some fruit, and then head back out there. And, you know, I hit like mile 20. I'm just cramping up terribly because I just didn't know what to do. So the last 5 miles were just absolutely miserable. It was my first like true introduction to the pain cave. I got through it, and then, you know, the rest of the day was horrible. Texas blew like a big lead. Penn State lost. I'm just sitting there so sore, like just like what the heck? This sucks. But so anyway, you know, kept grinding, kept working out, and then that next spring was my first ultra. So bypassed the marathon, was like, all right, let's have my first race be an ultra. So we found this one down in Virginia. It's actually the shirt that I'm wearing right now, the Bell Mountain Endurance races. I've actually done it the last 4 years. So they have 3 races in the weekend. They have a 25K, they have a 50K, which is 31 miles, and then the 50 miler is their big race. And this race is awesome because they have a big campsite that they rent the cabins out to the runners for the weekend. So you can literally rent the cabin, roll out of bed, and then just go straight to the finish line.
Dude,
and then,
that's awesome.
Yeah. And so this was the first time that I went down. It was myself, my buddy Mike, who I went to college with, and then my buddy Kyle, who went to high school with. He's a Simon and Jew guy.
And what distance were you doing this next race?
The 50
mile?
50K.
50K.
This was going to be my first official race. So again, like figuring things out more as I go, but still like having no clue of what's going on. And this was like me getting tossed to the wolves. There was snow in the forecast. I didn't have a rain jacket. I wore a long sleeve t-shirt to this race. All right. And so we're getting everything ready, and like, you know, I'm thinking to myself, all right, I'm not going to cramp up. I'm going to pack plenty of food in my bag. And it was hilarious because like I had so many pounds of food in the back of my vest, which, you know, I never had in training, you know, to have that additional weight. I was just like completely throwing myself off of my routine. And so we get everything packed up, and then, you know, the first time you try to sleep before a big race like that, you don't sleep. So we're, you know, restless night. I probably ate too much because I didn't understand carbo loading at all. And then it hits like 4 o'clock in the morning, and it is downpouring. Like we had a tin roof above us, downpouring, like out of Vietnam. Like it's something crazy. I roll over. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like you have to be kidding me. So we get out. Like it wasn't raining that bad when we initially started. But then we start the race, and then the rain turned into snow, and it was fine for like the first 16 miles. But I was not dressed properly. I had the lightest gloves on that my hands probably get numb with those things on when it's like 40 degrees out. And I'm wearing that. It's snowing. Like I said, I had a long sleeve t-shirt on. And by the time I hit mile 18, my hands froze over. So me saying at the beginning of the race, oh, I'm not going to cramp up, I'm going to have plenty of food. I had my food in Ziploc bags in the back of my sack, and I couldn't open the Ziploc bags because my hand froze over.
Jeez.
So I'm doing this race, I'm drinking a lot of water, and I'm cramping up. I got like 12 miles left. I'm cramping up, and I'm peeing clear white, but I'm just flushing my system because the only thing I could do is drink water. So this is just like another just like completely humbling experience. You know, there's a good picture of me at the end. Maybe we could post that at some point. You know, I'm just looking miserable at the end of the race, but got that done. And then from there, just like slowly but surely building up and just like learning things as you go. Like it's one of the coolest things about these races, and like there's so much to learn. And it just if you leave out a little detail, it can humble you so much. And I mean, that's not even to include like the first 200-mile attempts. Like, yeah, like there's so much to learn, and it's a great testament to life too. Like, there's so much to learn in life. Like, you know, just being willing to say, okay, I'm here. Like, what's there to learn, and how can I take this great challenge and just try to be a better man for it?
Yeah.
without a doubt.
So you did the first 50K.
Did the first 50K.
The race after that.
Let's think, because this was March 22.
Because you did a 50 mile right prior to the 100 attempts.
I've done. So, I think I did 150 miler before the first 100 miler attempt.
Okay.
So the March 22, and then I did the Philly Marathon that next November, and then my first 50 miler was that next spring. That went better, but still kind of a humbling experience. And then the Grindstone, the first 100 miler.
Okay.
So get to that, and Grindstone's it's the hardest 100 miler on the East Coast. There was a reason that me and Mike picked it, because we just knew it was going to be a battle, and I was putting in good training for sure, but still like green to it. Like I didn't understand nutrition too much, and we get to race day. And similar to like my first 50K, like I had packed so many things in the back of my sack because I didn't know what I was going to need. With that type of race, you're racing overnight. Grindstone has this great ability to just throw you into your own comfort zone immediately because it starts on a Friday night. So you have the element of, oh shoot, the first night I'm going to be all alone. I got my headlamp on me. I got my watch on me. I need like a portable charger because what if my watch dies? What if my headlamp dies? I need something to charge. So I had so much gear on me that I wasn't prepared for. And then the one thing that I really needed was wipes, because you run, and especially with me, like I'm still trying to figure out my diet. You're gonna eventually have to poop at some point. Like that's just gonna have to be a thing. And I get 8 miles into the race, I have to poop. I'm like, all right, I gotta pull over. I didn't have my wipes on me. So I look at Mike. I'm like, yo, do you got your wipes on you? He didn't have them either. So I'm like, okay, 2 miles away from the first aid station. Let me just get there, get to the aid station, and clean myself up. But there was gonna be rain in the forecast. Like I knew this prior, and then I started chafing like terribly. I'm like 16 miles in. I'm already starting to chafe.
Jeez.
And at this point, like, yeah, I had exposure to the pain cave, but I wasn't built up for that yet. And, I'm starting to get to mile 18. I'm getting to like mile 30, and, I'm hurting a little bit. Like my gait's kind of messed up because of where the chafing is. I'm trying to like swing my leg in a different way that my stride's not used to. And so I was just getting very exhausted, and I didn't know what to do to combat the chafing because, as a runner, if you start chafing, there's a few things that work and there's things that don't work. So they had Vaseline at the aid station, which is great to apply it prior to the chafing, but it doesn't do anything once the chafing starts. So again, this is something I would have never known. Like, how would I know? So I'm applying the Vaseline, expecting to get better. It's just not getting better at all. So I get to, mile 33, I'm hurting. Next 12 miles, I get to like 46, and I'm in the pain cave. My friends, I finally see my friends at 46. This is the first morning, and I got cut off on time. So Grindstone has a 36-hour cutoff, but at every aid station, if you're going too slow, they'll cut you off. So I get to mile 54. I was going way too slow, and they ended up cutting me off. So I knew at that point, I was going to have my second attempt. So from there, I think I did 350 milers in between then. So the next March, I did Belmonte again. I did U-Rock in April, which was again down in Virginia. And then I did one in June. That was the Finger Lakes. So 350 milers, getting more confident.
And those were all successful?
All those were successful, yeah. The Finger Lakes one was actually my first top 10 finish. So that was a big, it's different between, I just want to finish this race to like, I want to compete in this race.
Right,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I want to go chase down the leaders. So that was one of the first races where I was like, yeah, like I'm here to compete. I'm here to compete. So I get to Grindstone again, and things went better overall. But again, like there's just so much to learn, and I hit mile 50, 56, 60, and my feet start to blister up because I didn't, again, like I had never been that far. Like I never had issues with blistering on my feet really, because my feet were so callous from running all these years, that I never thought to like, oh, you should probably put something on your feet prior to the run. So my feet started blistering, and then there was no rain in the forecast. And this is just another thing with ultras that you can't predict, because you're in the mountains. The weather becomes so unpredictable,
Right.
and it's something that you just cannot control. So no rain in the forecast all weekend. We get to the second day in the Saturday, and Saturday afternoon, we just see thunderclouds. And I'm talking like 5 inches of rain in a matter of like 4 hours. So I'm getting dumped on with rain. My feet are getting destroyed. And I get to mile 72, and it's amazing. Like your crew at that aid, or your crew at Grindstone can only go to a certain amount of aid stations. So the aid stations that you see them at are at mile 33, at 46, at 72, 84, 93, and then the finish. So you kind of got to like plan yourself out to like, okay, when am I going to see my crew? I know I could take longer when I see them. What sort of things do I need at these aid stations to make my run successful towards the end? So when I saw my crew at mile 72, I had the plan of changing socks at some point. I didn't think of like changing shoes completely, which is something that I did in the previous, or did in my last attempt. But my dad took off my shoe, and my feet were destroyed, like full blood blisters on both sides of my heels. The bottom of my feet were ghosting up, like they look like, if you're familiar with World War history, like I was starting to get trench foot. And it was just like miserable. And, every time I stepped, it was getting very painful. So I was still going to go on. I wasn't going to quit on this thing. So I go from 72, the next 10 miles, I picked up my second pacer, and we start going out. I'm making okay time, but still not great. And then, you're starting to head into the second night, and things are just, at that point, the difficulty compounds. So I get to mile 84, and 84 to 94 in that race is the last very, very difficult section. And this section, it's 2,700 feet of elevation gain and 3,200 feet of decline in a 10-mile segment. So you're talking about nothing but steep incline or steep decline with terrain that's just all rocks, all roots, and then you add in the element that it's pitch dark, and you're exhausted. Like, my nutrition plan wasn't great the second time at Grindstone either. So there was points at that segment, and even earlier in the race, where I was falling asleep when I was running. And that's not something that I had experienced before. So that was completely new to me. So this last section, I just beat the cutoff. My friends were kind of rushing me out, which is something that, kind of frustrates you. It's like, I've been out here all day, and now I'm getting rushed when I kind of want to take a break. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So get out into that last section, and I probably left that aid station at 8:45 at night, and I needed to get to the next one at 1:45 in the morning on Sunday morning. So you would think, oh, that's plenty of time. Like 10 miles, all I got to do is like average, less than a 30-minute mile pace, and I'll be good. It took me over 5 hours to complete. And I got down to that aid station at 2 a.m. in the morning and got cut off. So, obviously that was disappointing. It was kind of a funny joke, because the medic comes whenever you get cut off, or you come in from an aid station, a medic will come in and check in on you. And she's like, do you have anything like medically that you need to report? I was like, just a broken heart. Like, just, to go, that was, at that point, it was 32 hours into a race, and, not to be able to get what you ultimately came down for, that was certainly difficult. But reflecting on it the next day, I was driving home with my buddy Colin, who, another one of just my brothers. Colin, he was scheduled the first 2 years, and he did run the last one with me, but he was scheduled the first 2 years to be my pacer for the last 10 miles, because him and along with my buddy Mike, he's seen me fail more than anybody.
Yeah.
So I wanted him to be at my side. So when we were driving home the next day, we were talking about it. And, you know, for a 100-mile race, you receive a belt buckle at the end. And when you start running, you know, you think that the trophy, or you think the belt buckle, or you think that this big thing, like that's the goal when you're racing, or when you go for these races. Oh, that's the goal, the belt buckle, the trophy. But that's not it at all. It's the guy that comes out the other side. It's the guy that, you know, when I raced the second time, the second attempt, mile 60 took me 43 minutes to run a mile. My feet were destroyed. I was falling asleep on the trail. Things were not looking good. I still went 30 more miles after that. So to see yourself be in such terrible shape, and then to just be able to put your head down and say, like, no, like, let's just figure out a way to go one more. Because, you know, 40 more miles, that might seem daunting, but I might be able to go one more. And what would that look like if I'm able to come out the other side? And so, yeah, I was disappointed that I didn't get the 100-mile of that race, but there was a big part of me that was proud about the fact that, yeah, I saw myself in some deep crap at points in that race, and I still found a way to still push, and I didn't quit. You know, it was me just, you know, not finding a way to get to be fast enough, and to see yourself persevere through that. That's just a, you know, that's just a rewarding thing that nobody can take from you. You know what I mean? So yeah.
What's the self-talk process? You know, when you're in that dark time, like you say something to yourself on that run when you're starting to hurt. You're saying you're doing a 40-minute mile. Like, do you start praying? What do you do personally to kind of keep going to get that one more that you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because, like, you see Goggins and he'll like yell at the video, like, "Oh, stay hard," like, and there's certainly times for that, but when you're doing these races, you got to be your best friend, because you're already putting yourself through torture and just hardship. So when you're in a dark place, like, you just kind of you have to be your best friend, and just like really break things down to the point of, okay, I know I'm in so much pain. I understand the magnitude of this. I'm on mile 60. My feet are destroyed. I'm falling asleep. List out all the adversity that you can. Okay, I'm still breathing. My feet are still moving. Like, let me just get to a mile. Because as we talked about before, like, 40 miles is a daunting task. 1 mile isn't as daunting. So if I can find a way to get to mile 61, there's a chance. And at that, with Grindstone, you know, you get to the aid station. Okay, let me get to this aid station and just try and piece myself back together and see what can happen if I just keep my feet moving. Because if I keep my feet moving, I'm still in the fight. And if I'm in the fight, there's still a chance of it. But that's the biggest thing. It's like, it's so easy to beat yourself up. And with races like that, there was a Navy SEAL I listened to on Sean Ryan's podcast. He talked about, you know, what BUDS or what SEAL training is. And he said, ultimately it's just a mirror. It's a reflection upon yourself. And that's ultra running to a T. It's like when you're in that deep part, you know, all the adversity in the world, your true character is going to show. You know, the type of person, when you're tired, you're fatigued, everything is going wrong. Like, are you going to stand up and fight, or are you going to just complain about everything that happens to you? Because if you complain and, you know, just beat yourself up, like, you'll never get anywhere.
100%. Dude, I couldn't relate to that more. Like, I mean, similar to you, like the Can't Hurt Me Goggins book, that was a huge motivation for me. But when I was running some of the ultra races and you get in that pain cave, the last thing I wanted to hear was like Goggins' voice or like him pop in my head. Like, none of that shit works, at least for me. Like, I don't know. It's you kind of, again, for me, just turn your brain off and keep going. Like, keep taking that one step. But the motivation of like Goggins, you know, it just didn't work for me. And I think it's hard for a lot of people to understand that. Like, you see these hype up videos and you think, okay, I'm going to go until I die. Like, this video got me so hyped, I'm going to keep going. But it wasn't like that for me. You know, when I was at those later miles, and even thinking about Goggins, I got pissed off. Like, I did not want to go. Yeah.
Because that's like that's a big difference between like motivation and discipline.
Yeah.
Because motivation is all feeling based, whereas discipline is just taking care of a task. Because, you could be all motivated in the world, but it doesn't matter when, you don't feel like doing it.
Right.
If you don't feel like doing it, if you only do something when you feel like doing it, do you truly love it?
Right.
Absolutely not.
Right.
Absolutely not. It feels great to be sitting on a couch watching a Goggins video. You're like, yeah, man, I'm going to go rip this 100-miler tomorrow. But when you're in deep crap at mile 78 and your mind's just completely elsewhere, you don't want to hear any motivation. Like, no motivation is going to get you through that.
Yeah.
It's, how am I going to break this thing down?
Yeah.
And it can't come from anything external. It can't come from, and it would be a ridiculous thing for somebody to come up to you and try to give you a hype up when you're at mile 78. It's like, man, like, you haven't been with me the entire time. Like, how are you going to say anything to me that's going to matter, right? It has to all come from you. It's got to become from internal, right? Whether it's from prayer or anything else, like, it has to come internal. And it's not going to be feeling based. It's not going to feel great. Like, absolutely not. It's going to feel horrible.
Right.
At points. But it's just like, all right, this situation that I'm in, this adversity that I'm in, I got to be at peace with it. And I just got to find a way to manage it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I was gonna ask about is there like a specific moment where you would say your faith and your running intersected at all?
I think it hit the ground running right away.
Yeah.
Just having the understanding that this is a long journey. And one of the things that I pointed out, or that hit me in scripture early on, is there's a story of one of the ancient patriarchs. So in the book of Genesis, there's one of the patriarchs, his name is Jacob. And he ends up wandering in the desert. And the story goes that he ends up wrestling an angel. And the wrestling goes on for an entire night, and until Jacob succumbs him, and he ends up beating the angel in the wrestling match. And but he won't let the angel go until he says, I won't let you go until you bless me. He didn't know it was an angel at the time, but he says, I won't let you go until you bless me. And so at that point, the angel kind of reveals himself, and then he changes his name. His name goes from Jacob to Israel. And the cool thing about the Bible, if you read any of it, is that names meant something back then. And all of them, you start, or it even includes like the apostles, like all their names meant something. And what Jacob's name became, Israel. So Israel, we understand that as the promised land that was given to his people. Israel means he who wrestles with God. So to like try to take that understanding of like, okay, the promised land is found with he who wrestles with God. So like then take that and like apply it to my own life. It's like, okay, this thing called faith, it's not going to come to me right away. Like I gotta pursue it, and I gotta struggle with it. Right. So that just fits in with training with me. It's like, okay, my faith, I gotta struggle with it. I'm going to be open. I'm going to be humble. I'm going to try and learn as best as I can. But, it's not supposed to be easy. And with training, you learn how to deal with discomfort. You learn how to deal with pain. You learn how to be humble, and all of this character building is making me a better man. And I believe that, the person that shows up on Sunday in Mass is a better person because I pray, because I work out, because I train, because I do the discipline. I invite Christ into my life. All of these things are bonding, and they work off of each other very well. And I think that, it's been a great testimony to share.
That's really cool. You were talking about St. Augustine before the pod. Do you want to get into that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So Augustine is my middle name. So
Okay.
he's always had an impact on my life. And what's cool about Augustine is he was a very intellectual human being from the start. Like he was very, very smart. To the point that his mom, she's also a saint. Her name's Saint Monica, and she was just like the faithful mom, always the one praying for her son, regardless of what he did. And Saint Augustine would always, he was smarter than his mom, as the story goes. So he would always have the answers, and Monica wouldn't. But Saint Monica would always pray for him, and those prayers eventually led to it. But Augustine kind of had a past, and I think when we're introduced to the saints, we kind of think of like, oh, there are these people, perfect people that sat in church with halos over their head the entire time, that never questioned God, never did this. But with Saint Augustine, it was the complete opposite. He was a man that struggled with lust. He had a kid out of wedlock. He was very skeptical of the faith, and it came full circle on him to the point that he became one of the greatest works. I mean, his theology became one of the greatest works, and is taught throughout Catholic theology. But to hear and understand a story of Saint Augustine, where he was walking this life very skeptical, atheistic, struggle with lust, and he even has a quote. It's very funny, and this is a point where he started to convert. But he said, "Lord, make me chaste, like make me pure of my sexuality, but not yet. Lord, make me chaste, but not yet." It's just like the most pathetic. It's the most pathetic prayer on the planet. But this is one of the greatest. This is the guy who became one of the greatest saints that we know of. But one of my favorite quotes of his is, "Lord, our hearts are restless until they find you, until they rest in you." It's like, that's beautiful. It's like we're always searching for something in this world, and we all know it. But you won't be fully at peace until they are rested in the Lord, and that's just so beautiful.
Yeah. Is Sally's Augustinian? I forget.
No, they're not. They're
Okay.
the Oblates of Saint Francis de Sales
Okay.
are kind of the order that run everything. But
Okay.
Saint Francis de Sales is our patron saint.
Because like I know Malvern is, and then like Nova's an Augustinian school.
Yeah, right.
Is it the new Pope Leo? He's an Augustinian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And they're very intellectual. That's what they're known for. So yeah, I'm excited to see what Pope Leo does. The name Leo itself. I mean, yeah,
it's
good
good.
name. It is a great name. Pope Leo, he was the one that introduced the Saint Michael prayer. So the prayer to Saint Michael the Archangel. He was actually my confirmation saint, but he's the defender against the devil, and Pope Leo was the one that introduced the Saint Michael prayer, and in traditional masses you'll hear it said at the end of mass, and the Saint Michael prayer has become one of my favorite prayers too. But yeah.
Yeah, I'll never forget like when my pop called me this past spring, like he was like, I hit the ultimate jackpot, like American Pope. We went to Nova because he went to Nova.
Yeah.
He's like, he sat in my exact seat. I know it. But
This table's pissed me off.
yeah, you're like wrestling with it.
Yeah, I know.
You don't have to wrestle with it. Like I think you keep it in one spot and
Call
then
me Israel, son. Wrestle with the table. So I'm gonna say, you were saying the Pope's Augustinian. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
What is that?
So
Augustinian.
there's orders of priests.
Okay.
So there's order, and I probably wouldn't be the best to speak upon it.
Yeah.
But you have like your diocesan priests, right? They go in, they study, and they head the parishes that we know of.
Okay.
But then you have religious life, which is a little different, where you have orders. So the Oblates of Saint Francis de Sales is an example. All the priests down at Salesianum, they follow the Oblates, and they follow the theology of Saint Francis de Sales. That has been passed out through tradition. Same thing with the Augustinians. So all of Augustine's theology, they follow that to a T, and they learn, they educate themselves based upon what Saint Augustine does. So there's a ton. There's the Benedictine order. That's Saint Benedict. You can get to the extreme of like monks. So they're like a separate order. They're all priests at the end of the day.
Okay.
But the Trappist monk, that's the most extreme of the extreme.
Okay.
Do you know the story of Saint Maximilian Kolbe?
He's the best. He's the man.
Yeah. I just had to look it up because I was looking into that like a few months ago. Obviously, super cool story.
He actually has a movie that just came out.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to watching it. But Saint Maximilian Kolbe, he's had a big impact on me.
Do you want to tell his story for the audience?
Absolutely, I'd love to. So growing up and going to St. Max, like you hear his story, but I actually have the ability to teach CCD. So I get to teach 7th graders once a month who are entering into their confirmation year, which has been a blessing in my life. And one of the things that I have the ability to do is give them lessons on some saints. So last year I was given a saint presentation on St. Max. I felt like, okay, this would be a good idea to share with the kids. And to hear his testimony when you're older and more mature and further along in prayer, it's just like a rewarding thing, and just recognizing like how amazing this guy was. So the Blessed Mother, so Mary appeared to him when he was like 13 years old, and offered him. The story goes that she offered him 2 crowns. One was white, one was red, and the white one represented purity and chastity, and one represented martyrdom, which means like to die for your faith. And she was like, you have the ability to choose one. And he accepted both into his life. So that at that point, he was like 13 years old. I think 2 years later, he enters into becoming a friar, which at that time was just a priest. At that, I forget exactly which order, but him and his brother entered in, and he just like hits the ground running. He becomes like a very popular voice in the Catholic ministry. He starts setting up missionaries around the world. And what's so cool about Maximilian Kolbe, you look up images of him, he just looks like a man's man, like very rugged, just like no excuse. Like I love Goggins because he's the no excuses guy. Maximilian Kolbe like fits into that right away. Like this guy struggled with tuberculosis his whole life. Yeah. So he did not have a good immune system. Struggled with breathing his whole life. It was said that he had only one working lung, and yet still continued to set up missionaries in Japan and India. It was so bad to the point that they said that he would say mass over in Japan and India, but somebody would have to stand next to him while he was at the altar because he would almost fall over for how bad his tuberculosis was. So this is just a guy that like, no excuses, none of that. Like, I'm just going to go with my life. And then eventually his health deteriorated so bad to the point that he had to be sent home back to Poland. I never mentioned that he was living in Poland. That's where he originally was from. So he heads back to Poland, and then this is when World War II breaks out, and the Nazis invade Poland from the west. The Russians invade Poland from the east, and it was his part of Poland that the Nazis got to, and he was sent to Auschwitz. And I don't know how long he was in Auschwitz until this moment, but the story goes that a few people tried to escape Auschwitz and they got caught, and to send a lesson, or to give the message of a lesson to the prisoners, the Nazis were going to choose 10 people at random and starve them to death. And so they picked the 10 men, and then the 10th man kind of stands out of the crowd and he says like, I have a wife and kids, and just like falls to his knees, just breaking out crying. And St. Max kind of steps forward and says, I'm a Catholic priest, I'm taking his place. And that's what he's like very well known for taking the place of the guy. But what the movie that came out a few weeks ago is diving in, I'm really excited to see, is what happens in the starvation bunker. Because I heard this when I was younger, but it didn't hit me until when I went back and read it a second time as I was more mature, to understand like what that scene would look like in the starvation bunker. Because those 9 other men, they had their families taken from them, they had their businesses taken from them, they had their dignity stripped from them, and now they're getting thrown into a starvation bunker, and just they're gonna die of starvation, one of the worst ways that you could possibly die. So for them to be in that place and to try and enter into yourself of like, what would that look like? And for them to, I think it would be very understandable, not a good thing. I'm not saying it would be a good thing, but I would think it would be a very understandable thing to curse God in that moment. And the thing is, if you curse God on your last moment, you don't know what's going to happen to you in the next life, because we're not built for this life. We're not built for this world. We're built for the next one. So to curse God at very last moments because you experience evil to its worst degree is understandable. But what St. Maximilian Kolbe did, they were heard singing songs of praise in the 2 weeks that he was in the starvation bunker. So to try and understand that, it's like that man saved those souls. Like who knows how judgment and you know, it's hard to understand judgment, but like, you know, to know that those 9 men died at peace.
Yeah.
As opposed to being in a place of resentment on their deathbed, starving to death. It's just an amazing thing. And I mean, again, we talk about St. Maximilian Kolbe, no excuses guy. He went 2 weeks of not eating a single thing after struggling with tuberculosis that whole time. They had to put him down with lethal injection because he wouldn't die. So
That's
this guy,
insane.
yeah, the guy was a man.
That's insane.
So great to learn from.
Yeah.
So you were saying you wake up, talk to God every day. How do you talk to God? You read scripture? You wake up, just get silent, get away from your phone? What do you do?
It's a mix of everything, and
Yeah.
I think when you start to pray, it's very good to really lean on scripture, really lean on, like for me it was the rosary, but like really lean on like ritualized prayer, because it's hard for you to like sit in silence. But as you grow in prayer, it is very important to sit in silence and just try to listen, because a lot of the time there's a great story in the Old Testament. There's a story of one of the prophets, Elijah, and Elijah wins this great battle against these false prophets, and an angel appears to him and says, "The Lord's going to talk to you. You must prepare yourself." So Elijah enters into this cave, and he's listening for the Lord. And there's these 4 things that happen. There's an earthquake that happens. There's a fire that happens. There's a great wind, and then there's a lightning storm. All these 4 things happen, but in none of these 4 things was God's voice heard. But immediately after these 4 things, it was a slow whisper, and it was in this tiny whisper that God's voice was heard. And you know, to think about it, it's like, okay, like if I want to hear God's voice, I have to have the ability to be silent and just be willing to listen. So for Catholics, you know, and something that I've fallen in love with is a thing called adoration, where you sit with, you know, the communion, or as we know it as the Eucharist, and just sit in silence and just try to understand, you know, what's going on. So, you know, anybody could do this. Anybody could go to a chapel and just sit there in silence. And, you know, a good practice is just look up at the cross and try to understand what that means, you know, fully. You know, God came down, he took flesh, he offered up his only son for us and died for our sins, and is calling us to that same love, to serve those around us. You know, what does that look like for me in my life?
Yeah.
You know, how can I treat my family? How could I treat my friends in the same way that Christ is calling me to? And, you know, to just meditate upon the cross and, you know, just sit there in silence. It's just such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I love that.
Do you get a confession a lot?
I
Often?
do. I try to go every month.
Yeah.
It's a great practice to get into, of just being like, yeah, Lord, like I messed up. And it's not necessarily like, oh, you're so bad. It's more like, no, like I just want to conform my heart and try and be a better person, and try to, you know, accept Christ in my life. And, you know, if I'm doing things that are straying from that path, you know, like I should find a way to correct that. One of the first things that Christ commands his apostles in the gospel, he says to, you know, repent and believe in the gospel. Well, our understanding of repent is just like, oh, make yourself a better person. But to break it down, repent, the root of the word repent means metanoia, which means to like fully conform your heart towards it. So it's not just like, oh, like I sinned these, or I committed these sins, like let me correct those wrongs. It's more like, no, like I need to fully conform my heart towards living this life of accepting love into my heart and having a change of heart, and like not just avoiding the bad thing, but like doing the good thing.
Right. Yeah, without a doubt. Have you seen the movie Chariots of Fire?
I haven't.
Dude, it's so good. You should watch it.
What's it about?
I mean, it's like like iconic. Like you've probably heard like the theme song. The music's really iconic from it. But like my pop really wanted me to watch it, so I've been like putting it off for so long. Finally watched it. But it's about running, and I won't spoil it. But it's just, it follows the life of 2 Cambridge students, and one's a Jew. It sets place in the 1920s. One's a Jew, and one's like a minister from Scotland. and the one guy just runs for the glory of God, and the other guy is Jewish. He gets a lot of flack, but they eventually make it on the same team. They have to go to the Olympics in Paris, and it's very like faith based, but it's an iconic movie. Run In, so you'd like it. It's good. It's good.
I have to put it on my list.
Yeah, for sure. So walk us through the final attempt here of the Grindstone here a couple weeks ago, and eventually crossing that finish line.
Absolutely. Yeah. So training was hard. This year, I had the 50 miler in the March. June, I did a 70 miler because I wanted something in between. Because I knew this time around my two biggest holes in last year's attempt was my foot care plan and my nutrition plan. So I wanted to roll out something, and it needed to be tested past the 50 miler mark. Because I knew at this point, my 50 miler March, I came in fourth. So that was first top 5 finish, which was an amazing event. And I mean, even to back up a little bit, the first time that I went down to Belmonte and ran that 50K, there was 3 of us. And the last 2 years we've gone to Belmonte, there was like 20 of us. So to just like see the group grow, it's like, yeah, like,
awesome.
This is bigger than me.
Yeah.
This is bigger than me. This is awesome. So yeah, had the one in June. Got that done. That was hard. Last 30 miles, that was tough, man. For like ultras, they're just very unpredictable. Things happen. But yeah, last 30 miles were very tough. So I was happy with how that went. Came in like 46 out of like 200. And then yeah, the rest of summer was kind of tough. Like it has been a tough year for me. I had a tough breakup. Lost my grandma in the spring. So like mentally, just like haven't been there. And it's kind of funny like to hear people like up who's like, I wish I was as motivated as you. I wish I was this. I was like, man, like I've kind of been checked out in training the past few months. There's been times in the past few months where it's been very hard to get out of bed. But to have something that holds you accountable, like Grindstone, if I don't get up and train, this thing's going to expose me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of my concern over these next few months. It was like, is this going to destroy me? Like, I know I've put in the work. I know I've done it. But, like, mentally, I'm kind of in a state where I'm a little disinterested and things aren't going great. So what is that going to look like? So, the rest of summer, like, yeah, I was disinterested, but I was putting up miles. I had some hard runs. There's a trail out in Valley Forge. It's like 20 minutes from here. It's called Mount Misery. And if you're familiar with ultras, there's a race in France called Mount Chamonix. It's like the Super Bowl in over in France. It's a 100-miler, and it has 31,000 feet of elevation gain. Grindstone is 21,000 feet.
Jeez.
So to just like put that in perspective, that's how hard like that Super Bowl race, Mount Chamonix. But this trail that I found at Valley Forge is 1-for-1 with Chamonix. So if I ran Valley Forge for 100 miles, that would be 30,000 feet of elevation gain. So I was putting, multiple runs a week up at Valley Forge. My mile totals was like 75 to 85 a week. I ran a marathon at Valley Forge, which I felt great about. Like I felt like I was speeding up 7 hours into a marathon. And for like people that don't understand like the type of terrain that we're running at, my last marathon, or I ran Philly Marathon last year and did it in 3 hours and 18 minutes. This past summer when I ran the marathon at Valley Forge, same distance, it took me 7 hours because of the elevation gain and because of the terrain involved. So you're just talking about like a completely different animal. Like there's nothing fast out there. Nothing fast. Your heart rate is so high. You got to be so focused at your feet because am I going to roll my ankle? Am I going to tear my Achilles? Like you have to be so focused and so locked in for that long period of time. So that place whooped me into shape. Yeah. And so like, yeah, sure. I was pretty disinterested, but I had a lot of good runs out there leading up into the race. So there was no reason for me to think that I couldn't do the thing. Yeah. This time around. So we get to race week and I head down on, took off of work Thursday, Friday, headed down on Thursday, and was really looking forward. Had a great crew. Nine of my buddies came down. My dad came down for the second time. So yeah, it was getting ready for the race. Friday rolls around. It's again, having a race on a Friday night is so weird because it's like I know I'm gonna have to be up for probably over 30 hours. How am I gonna sleep? Like when do I sleep? So my plan the last 2 years has been try to get to bed early, sleep as much as I can, get up kind of early on Friday, do my thing, eat some breakfast, and then like fall back to sleep for a few hours, and leave myself a few hours to get to the race. But you know, it's kind of tough when you're up most of the day, and then knowing, all right, I got to be up for the next 30 hours. So did that, was feeling good. Didn't want to eat like too crazy because you know didn't want to be completely bloated going into the race. But race day itself was hot. It was in like the mid 80s, and it was expecting to rain on Saturday night, so I had to be prepared for that. So we start the race, and my heart rate was so high. I don't know why. Like, I guess it's just because pre-race jitters, but you know I'm running the first few miles. It's all on pavement, pretty flat, and my heart rate's at like 170. I'm like, man, come on,
dude.
I'm like not even pressing the pace. I'm running like a 9-minute pace. I'm like, why is this happening? But you know, you get an hour and a half in, the sun goes down, it starts to cool off, and you start to get into a little bit of a groove. My nutrition plan was a lot different this year than previous years because the previous year I was gonna go every 4 miles. I was gonna have a gel. I was like, okay, that sounds like a good formula, but when you start getting to these hikes, when it's 20-minute miles, you're going an hour and 20 minutes without eating anything. So that adds up. So this time around, I was like, okay, I'm going to automate this. I'm going to base it off of time as opposed to distance. So every 30 minutes, I was going to be eating something. Every 15 minutes, I'm taking a sip of water. Every mile, I'm taking a sip of water. So like everything was automated for me to just, and it's good because like you don't think about it anymore. Like it's just like, I'm a machine, I'm a robot. This is what my nutrition plan looks like. I'm going to follow it regardless of how I'm feeling. Cause like, that's another thing. When you start to get deep into these races, you're like, I don't want to eat anything anymore. But like, that's the worst thing. You have to just like stay on it. So to just automate it and be like, that's enough. Like, don't have to think about it anymore is a good thing. So, we start to get into the night. The first really hard section is 11 to 21. It's a 10-mile section, but it's like early enough in the race that you don't feel it too much. Like you'll come out of that being like kind of sore, just based off like the sheer amount of hiking and that involved in that section. But you know, you get through that. It's early enough in the race that it's not as big of a deal. So get to mile 20 through that hard section, and then the first section that you see your crew, like I said earlier in the podcast, was mile 33, and it's cool because like in the back of your mind, like I get to see my friends for the first time,
Right.
and so as you get to 20, like you're getting closer. Like, man, half marathon, I get to see my friends. That's just like such a rewarding feeling. And so then the next aid station was 25. So then you have 8 miles to the next one. And this aid station is cool because you actually hit this aid station twice. It's an out and back. And you're in the woods for so long, and it's dense forest that if you've never been down to Virginia, like you'll never see anything like it. And at dark, it's so different because like it is a different type of dark. Like if you turn your headlamp on, you're not seeing anything whatsoever. But what's so cool about this is like the aid stations are all lit up with Christmas lights. So you're in hours of darkness, and then all of a sudden, when you get close to the aid station, you see these Christmas lights. You're like, oh man, this is so cool. So, you know, you get closer to the aid station, you see the lights, you start hearing voices, you get a little hope in the back of your mind. So I see my friends, and like that's just like the greatest feeling to see them after a night. You know, it's 1:30 in the morning. I've been running for 7 hours. You know, I'm feeling good. But it's just like have them at your side. It's like, okay, like I'm going to war for them. You know what I mean? So 33, leave that aid station. And then that next 6 miles, like it's like a shorter section on paper, but that next section is always brutal because you kind of overlook it because like, you know that the hard sections are 11 to 20, 46 to 54, 54 to 60, and then later in the race 84 to 94. But like this one just kind of sneaks up on you. And it's like that every time. And it was just so much hiking. I started to get hurt a little bit.
Did you have poles? Hiking
I
poles?
did.
Okay.
I did. So yeah, relying on them a lot for sure.
Yeah.
Because these hikes are just so brutal, man. And even when I get on flatter ground and I'm running a little bit, like I still try to use my hiking poles just to give me a little extra giddy up. But this is when I started to hit the first real sign of adversity and something that like I just wouldn't have thought of. In Virginia, this was in the middle of September, so September 19th, September 20th. It's not even fall yet here in Pennsylvania. Like a lot of leaves haven't turned yet. Down in Virginia, the leaves were falling down there. It was completely brown. And I hit mile 38, my allergies started acting up. Like I developed a cough and I couldn't get rid of it the rest of the race. So, that was just like another thing. Like I should have had my inhaler.
Yeah.
But when would I have thought of something like
Yeah.
that? So that was just the first like real thing of adversity. Like, okay, like relax, like you'll be fine. You'll be fine. So I get to mile 39 was the next aid station. Still feeling fine, and then knowing like, okay, I'm gonna see my friends again at the next aid station. So get through the next 7 miles, was feeling good, and what I felt like was different than the previous year was I was really hammering the downhills very well.
Yeah.
It was because I had ran so much at Valley Forge throughout the summer and just getting used to that terrain, because when you're running downhill, it's a different stride. If you're running flat ground all the time, you can gallop a little bit, but when you're running downhill, it's got to be a shorter stride. Otherwise, you're just going to blow your quads out. So I got used to that stride better. Felt like I was running the downhills better. So I hammered out that next section. It was a lot of downhill, and get to 46. And I kind of had a plan, like, okay, I'm going to take my first nap here.
Mm-hmm.
I was picking up my buddy Mike, who was my roommate. He had actually finished Grindstone the first year that we attempted it. So he ran it the first year. He crushed it. So I wanted him to be my pacer for what was going to be the hardest part of the race. So 46 to 72, that was supposed to be the hardest part of the race. So coming to that aid station, take a nap. I'm feeling good. Get to see your buddies again. This is probably 5 o'clock in the morning. So you run a full night, and then the sun's starting to rise. Like it's such a wild feeling to be up all night running, and then you get to see a sunrise. So me and Mike start running. When you come out of a nap, your legs are pretty stiff. So first few steps, it was stiff. But knowing like that next section was gonna be tough, I needed to take it.
How long was that nap?
7 minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
7 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not like you fall asleep during those 7 minutes. It's more just like you're under stress for so long, you got to reset. So mentally, just being able to take 7 minutes of, I'm not going to think of anything but just breathing.
Yeah.
And even praying, like saying the Jesus prayer, like I said prior, just like sitting back, praying, like, Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. Like just saying that for 7 minutes and relaxing the brain, trying to get the legs back. It's just like such a good thing to get yourself into. So
and you had these planned out, right?
I had this first one planned out for sure.
Okay.
For sure. Because just knowing like that next section is going to be, that next marathon is absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
Because it has, are you guys familiar with switchbacks? I mean, I'll share it with the audience too. Yeah. Yeah. So when you're hiking up a mountain, sometimes a trail will just go straight up, but a switchback is when you sidewind up the trail. So you're just going, you're not going straight. You're like sidewinding up the thing, and it's just like the most demoralizing thing in the planet. And they're always so steep. They're always just so brutal, and it just feels like, when is this gonna end? So the first two sections of that are just straight switchbacks. So 46 to 54, I hammered that out pretty well, first 7 miles. And then that second switchback, this one destroyed me the year prior. So I already knew going in, like, this is gonna be a battle. So 54, this is the first time I puked. I never puked before in ultra. So I get to that aid station, and this was like another thing that I couldn't hold anything down. Like, I was eating solid and then just ended up pooping in the woods. And this is something I got to figure out for later races. But at that aid station, I had a ton of water, a ton of fruit, and my body was like, no, we're not having this anymore. Start puking on the ground, and then have to stand up 2 minutes later and get back to running again. So we start heading out, and this switchback, I tell you, like, this thing just humbles you so much. The first 4 miles, and we don't get hills like this back home, like back in Pennsylvania, because you're used to rolling hills. Like, you're used to, like, okay, maybe 100 yards, maybe 200 yards, then it flattens out, and then you got a little more. No, this is four straight miles of just hiking. So you're talking about, I'm on this hike for 2.5 hours straight, nothing else, of just straight incline. And this isn't just like a clear path. This is like boulders, and my hiking poles, like, they're combustible, so they can come undone. They kept getting stuck in the boulders, and they would come undone. So I was having to, like, keep putting my hiking poles back together. I was getting so mad. Like, at that point, I was so happy Mike was there, because I saw the ledge. I was like, this might be a better option right now. You know what I mean? Like, this is so miserable. It is so miserable, so humbling. So anyway, we finally get on top of this thing, and I'm talking like hours, and just like starting to be in the pain cave where, like, I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Like, that type of just like desolate feeling. We finally get over this thing. And then this downhill was where I really struggled with last year. Mile 60, like I said earlier in the podcast, it took me 43 minutes to run a mile. Last year, I was, a whole mixture of things. This year, it took me 21. So to be able to cut down 22 minutes, that felt amazing. But this last section, it's downhill, but the trail is like, you can't even put your 2 feet together for the width of the trail. Like, it's very, very narrow, and there's loose rocks everywhere. So, like, sometimes you're just hopping on the rock, hoping that this isn't going to slide me off the trail and off into the woods. So we get down off that trail. We get into the aid station, mile 61. I'm feeling good. It is starting to get hot. This is now Saturday, around like 10 or 11 in the morning. And we get back out we start to get back out onto the pavement. And then I have to go out in the woods and do my business again. And then at this point, this is when I started to have a rash in the places.
Yep.
The places. That's what we'll go with. And it's just like, again, humbling feeling, because it's just like, this is so miserable. Every step now is just like, this sucks. But Chad Wright, he's one of my favorite ultra runners, former Navy SEAL. If you're not familiar with him, he's like a white Southern David Goggins who doesn't curse. He's amazing. He has this idea where he says, don't give pain a voice, like physical pain, not mental. Like, obviously we should communicate that to each other. But when it comes to a race or a task like that, you can't give pain a voice, because if you fix it, if you speak it, and this has biblical undertones too, but when you speak something, you give him power to it, and you're fixating on it. So if I say in that moment, oh my God, I'm chafing so bad, I'm fixating on it. I'm going to let that pain overtake me. So I need to find every fabric of my being to just not let it bother me. So we get back on the road. Yes, I'm chafing, but, like, I'm not saying anything about it. We hammer out those next 5 miles. We get to mile 67, and that was the second. That was I took my second nap at this aid station. Was just kind of feeling like pretty tired, and knowing that the next section was gonna be pretty tough. Just figured, 10 minutes, elevate the legs a little bit. We'll get back on the trail. So then 72 to 77, or maybe 66 to 72. 66 to 72. Get back on the trail, 7 miles. This is hiking back up the switchback, because it was an out and back. So we get on top of this. It was a bunch of, like, shorter, steeper hikes to get back up on the switchback on the way back of the 100-miler. So we finally get on top of the mountain, and we start heading downhill, and I start hammering the downhills again, like, feeling great. Just, like, really excited with how things are going. But it's like I would say it's like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and this is the first time we hear thunder. So I'm just like, oh boy, here we go again. So I get to 72. This is when I drop off my pacer. My buddy Mike, he ran the marathon with me, and then I was my second pacer was my buddy Brian Murphy. Went to St. Max and Sally's with, grade school and high school. So those next 10 miles went pretty good. I did start to have blistering on both of my heels again, which I wasn't totally concerned about. Like I was feeling a little bit, but it wasn't that bad. The bottom of my feet weren't that bad at that point, so I was feeling pretty good. 'Cause I did switch shoes at the halfway point, so I felt like that was going well for me. So the next 10 miles, they're relatively easy for that type of course. So hammered those out pretty well. The first 5 miles were on trail. The next 5 were on pavement. And once we got on pavement, we started to hear the thunder and lightning getting very close. And the clouds were getting dark. And this is like starting to get into 6, 7 o'clock at night when it's starting to get pitch dark. So the last quarter of a mile, I was like probably a quarter of a mile, half mile away from the next to last aid station where I would see my crew at mile 84. And my hip started to flare up a little bit. So I wanted to walk it in to the next aid station. And then as that started to happen, the heavens opened up. And I come into the next aid station, my crew's ready for me. And my dad says, yeah, we just had a tree fall down on one of the cars at the aid station.
Are you kidding me?
Because of the storm. Yeah. So I come in and I knew I was going to take another nap just because knowing this is the section that I failed at last year.
Yeah. So this is the second nap for you?
This is going to be my third.
Third.
This is going to be my third. So
and what mile was this at?
This is at 84.
84. All right.
So 84 I come in. And knowing that this is like if I beat this section, I'm going to finish this race.
Yeah.
This is the last really, really hard section of the race. And so I come in and, you know, it's cool to reflect upon. I'm so happy my dad came down because, you know, him seeing the race, he didn't understand it at first, but for him to see it the last few years, he's really respected the journey it takes to accomplish something like this. And he said to me after the race, and he was tearing up as he said it, but he said, like, I was concerned with how you looked. Like, you looked checked out. You didn't mentally look that you weren't responding in the ways that I was hoping for. But he trusted me, and I'm grateful that he let me continue. So I get to the aid station. He had his truck pulled up, so I took a nap in his truck, and I get back out of the truck after the 10 minutes, and then sit back in my chair. I throw my rain jacket on at this point because it's just downpouring, like downpouring thunder, lightning, like something out of a movie, and get food in me, knowing like the next 10 miles, man, like this is gonna be a battle. So I stand up out of my chair. My legs are stiff again from being 84 miles into the race, and also I just woke up for a nap. And at this point in the race, like your body has a tough time regulating anything, and that was temperature for me. So we have this big temperature change from going from daytime to nighttime, and now this thunderstorm is rolling in, and I start shivering violently. Like my buddy Pat, he was my third pacer, and he was going to pace me through that 10 miles, and we start walking towards the trail, and he said to me, you know, a few days ago, he was like, dude, like that did not look good.
Yeah.
Like to the start of that, yeah, it did not look good. So I get back out on the trail, and I warm up a little bit, like I'm starting to feel good again. But the first 2.5 miles of that section is all hiking. So I'm averaging at this point 25, 26-minute miles. And, you know, I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, okay, if I stay at this pace, I will get to the next aid station before the cutoff, but I'm not leaving myself enough buffer for the rest of the way. So I was telling myself, and you have to understand that, like, it's pitch dark at this point. It is pouring rain. It is the middle of a thunderstorm. I'm seeing lightning strikes in the valley, and I can't see anything at my feet because there's bushes everywhere that are covering the trail. There's rocks everywhere. I'm like, how in God's name am I going to hammer out these downhills once I get over the top of this thing? So, you know, but I figured, like, I have to find a way. The downhill has been my advantage all day. Like I have to find a way to go hard on the downhills once I get over top of this mountain. So we finally get over top of it. You know, it took like, you know, those 2.5 miles probably took hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes to get over. And I kind of looked at Pat. I was like, here goes nothing. We're going to start going downhill. And like the terrain on this thing is crazy. It's like a minefield, you know, whether it's rocks, roots, like it blends in with the dirt too. So you got to take into that account. And then on top of that, it's raining, it's muddy. How am I going to trust my footing? And I'm 90 miles into the race. So I just started going, and it was awesome. It was, you know, it is so cool what the human body can do, what the human mind can do if you just put your head down and go. Like, to be in that bad a shape, and then all of a sudden I'm hammering out these downhills with all this crazy terrain in the middle of a thunderstorm and just passing people left and right.
Were
like
you seeing a lot of people on the trail?
I mean, there's points throughout the race where you won't see anybody for hours.
Yeah.
But at this point in the race, like, there was a lot of runners that were not trusting their footing, and for good reason.
Yeah.
Because they're that late in the race, they're that tired. And then on top of that, you know, the trail is just becoming muddy from all the rain. But in that section, I probably passed 8 or 9 people.
Yeah.
And it was just like such
Doesn't that feel so good?
Dude, like it was like the greatest, because like I failed in that section the year before.
Right.
And it was just like the ultimate ability to just like redeem myself. It felt so amazing.
Yeah.
So I get to the end of this, and getting closer towards that next aid station, which is going to be the last time I'll see my crew before the finish line, and it's the same one at 33 where it's like these dense woods, and then all of a sudden I'm seeing Christmas lights. So like as I get closer to the Christmas light, this is going to be so cool. This is going to be so cool. And you know, I love my friends so much because like they just find ways to entertain themselves, and they're just like such a good group. And what they were doing is whenever they saw a headlamp coming through the woods in the pitch dark, they would start clapping in unison together. Like they would start slow and go fast. They would go like, and so I'm coming down the trail and I'm hearing the clapping. I'm like, that has to be them. Like there's no chance it's anybody else, right? So I'm coming out to the woods and I'm hearing the clapping, and then I'm like, I have to let them know it's me.
Yeah.
So I give them a little yo, and they hear me. They're like, oh, let's go. And I emerge from the woods and I give like the biggest adrenaline dump ever.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's go! Like it was awesome. It was so cool. But yeah, so I come into that aid station. I was feeling good, and like, you know, I took another nap and I woke up from it. I was like, boys, fourth quarter. Like,
Yeah.
let's go. Like, time to call the old lineman. Tell him, time to call a timeout. Call the old lineman and hey, give me a first down. Give me a first down. That's all we need. That's all we need. But I didn't reset well. Like, I was happy. I gave the adrenaline dump. Like, you know, it's been a long few years, and to be able to overcome something like that was very difficult, and I was very proud of that. But I had 12 miles left.
Yeah.
And, you know, to be able to, you have to reset yourself. Because once I got out of that chair, I pick up my last buddy, Colin. We start running on the road again. I'm doing the math in my head. I got 4 hours more of running.
Yeah.
That's over a marathon.
Yeah.
When usually, like if I was fresh, so to be able to just like, I didn't reset well. So the last 12 miles were very difficult, for a reason that, you know, I do partly blame myself a little bit. But like, you know, you got to give yourself grace. Like it's all a learning experience. All this is. But there was a point in the last 10 miles where I looked at my buddy Colin. I was like, dude, my nuts have been inflamed for the last 50 miles. I am so done with this race. Like this is miserable. But, you know, Colin has been there for me every step of the way. He was so patient with me for the last 12 miles. So I give him all the credit in the world. He got me to the finish line. And, you know, coming through the last 4 miles, it's all on pavement and it's all farmland. And, you know, you're getting closer to the race. You're hearing the music going. And it was just like such a cool moment for us to like reflect back on as we're running closer towards the finish line. to cross the finish line, seeing my dad there, and then the guys they had woken up later than they wanted to. Like they would go back to the Airbnb and sleep in between aid stations. So they like sprinted towards the finish line and like just caught me as I was finishing. But to like see everybody when I finished, there was like maybe, 10 or 11 other people that were standing around the finish line. And I've got 10 people just for myself, to just like be able to sit in a place of gratitude of like, I just have friends that I don't even like deserve. Like
That's
this
amazing, man.
This is just like so cool. And, like we could post a picture of us at the finish line at some point, but like it was just like such a cool moment of so many friends that have come into my life at different points, whether it's grade school, whether it's high school, college, after college, and knowing that there was a few other guys that couldn't make it the weekend. So I could have had 15 guys down there that, to have one good friend in your life is a blessing. To have 9 who are willing to just take their weekend and go down to Virginia and spend 36 hours in the woods with you, like, those are brothers, man. That is just like such a cool feeling, and to be able to reflect on it and just be in so much pain, and just be grateful for the journey that I was on. Like, yeah, it was so cool.
Dude, that's
so
amazing.
cool, dude.
That's amazing.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Seriously.
Did you get teary-eyed crossing that line?
Not really. I was so tired.
Yeah.
They were like, "How you feeling?" I'm like, "Dude, I just want to go to bed."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I just want to go to bed. And it's such like a weird feeling because like you're not even appetized. Like I just burned so many calories, and then my buddy Matt went over and got me like pancakes. I took one bite. I was like, "Dude, not a chance I'm eating this."
Yeah.
Like I just want to go to bed.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, there's so much to unpack, and a moment like that, like you almost become more emotional after the fact.
Yep.
Because there's just so much to like, little memories of like mile 38. I started coughing. I had the rest of the race that I was, you're not thinking about that at the
Right.
moment. But like to overcome that adversity, it's like, dude, this is so cool.
Yeah.
This is so cool.
So for me, I always wanted to go until I couldn't. Like I was like, how far is it until I can't run anymore? After you finished that race, do you think you had any more in you?
I was still moving.
Yeah.
I was still breathing.
Yeah.
I mean, you see some of the people, like one of my favorite videos was the last man standing race that BPM put on in the spring. If you're interested in running, go look up that. It's called Surrender on YouTube. It's unbelievable. But to see the level of pain that Kim was in on mile 160, and you think the documentary's over. At mile 160, he's talking like, "I'm gonna quit. This is my last round. This is my last round." The guy goes another 80 miles. The documentary was halfway over. You thought he was gonna quit at minute 45 of the documentary. It goes another 45 minutes, and the race only ends because there was a thunderstorm that wiped out the whole course. They went 240 miles. 240 miles.
It's crazy.
Like the guy was talking about quitting at mile 160. Like never question the human spirit, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
My legs were still moving. Obviously I had a lot going on. But like, as we sit here, Goggins is a mile 190 of Moab.
Right.
Like, what are we capable of?
Right.
And part of it is kind of scary.
Yeah.
It's like death's door is like what we're, when you're knocking on death's door, that's what you're capable of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you got to be willing to ask yourself, are you willing to go there?
Gosh, give me the itch again, dude. So, what's next now for you?
I'm
Do you
gonna
have
have to
anything?
do it. I'm doing
you're
it
next,
at
dude.
some point.
Let's
You
go.
boys are on the team.
go.
You
Yeah.
know,
I love it.
I'm hoping I get off this Philly wait list. Just for the marathon.
No, I agree.
Isn't that over? Isn't didn't they?
I don't know. I'm probably not getting off of it, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I gotta sign up for something else in the spring, I guess.
50 mile.
Right to the 50.
Yeah.
Why not?
But no, what Cole said. What's next for you?
What is next? So I'm going to try and get into Philly one way or the other. And if I do get into Philly, I'm going to try and get as close to Boston as possible.
That's sub 3 hour to get in the bus?
It's 2:55 now.
Dude, that is crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
That is crazy.
I know. I mean, it can be done. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no reason to think that I can't.
Yeah.
I ran 3:18 last year with Achilles tendonitis. So to know that I had Achilles tendonitis all in training, month leading up to it, and didn't have a single sprint workout the entire time. So
Jeez.
there's room for growth. So even if I get like a 307, I'll be very happy with that.
Yeah.
From there, I'm coaching basketball in the winter, and it's kind of fun because I didn't grow up playing basketball, but my buddy Mike's dad is the coach for St. Max, and so I'm like the strength and conditioning coach. So I do conditioning with the boys,
Nice.
and they think it's the greatest thing ever. So throughout the winter, I'll be doing that, and then once we start hitting spring again, I'm gonna throw my hat in for Leadville in December when the lottery opens, and I'm hoping that I get into Leadville in August, and then from there, my buddies want to do Grindstone now, so I'm gonna do that again, and then from there just keep going, and eventually, once we start tackling these things and like getting good at the hundreds, I mean we'll be setting our sights on Cocodona, and more stuff like Moab. So
That's
man,
amazing, man.
It's a cool place to be in to look forward to stuff like this, but trying to dominate the weeks as they go, and bring great people like you guys along, as well. As it's gonna be a cool place. So
That's amazing, man.
Do you have any advice for athletes, whether it's mental, mind based, or just faith based, and for the younger generation in general?
Like one piece of advice.
Yeah,
Just one good piece of advice.
just recognize that God loves you, and you have the ability to do amazing things if you could just put your head down and stay present and not get overwhelmed of, oh my God, is this going to work out? Like, how is this? Things are going to work out for you. Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. Like, that's exactly right. Sitting in the place knowing that God's behind me. Do I need anything else? Not really. I don't. So to be able to sit in that place and just, live with presence, and, just keep going. Just keep going.
Yeah, and I ask every guest this, no matter age, whatever. What's your advice for me? It could be the same thing. It could be that.
Yeah, man.
That's it.
Just keep doing your thing, bro. I admire you for doing stuff like this, because so many people take the normal, comfortable path, and for you to be doing this at such a young age, it's refreshing.
Appreciate
It's
that.
refreshing, and for you to, we talked about it earlier, like you have the ability to be such a sponge at this age. You don't have responsibility in your hands at all. Like you could just take this thing and run with it.
Definitely. That's the goal.
Yes, sir.
Poos, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it.
It's an honor. I mean, hey man, just thank you for having me on. I really
Of course.
appreciate it.
I'm sure I'll see you around. Both of you boys.
Yeah. Run club.
Some crazy
right?
workouts. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Motive Podcast signing off. Peace.